cigars or boots or clothing from the East, where these things are manufactured. So if you're manufacturing something, you've got a very much a captive market and high, high profits. After 1869, not only are goods coming in, but also labor is flooding in. So there is considerable unemployment. Again, particularly in the 1870s, when there's another depression. But California's economy undergoes a really wrenching change, in that they suddenly have to become competitive with the East. And so that means that their whole industrial mix is going to have to change, and you're going to have unemployment. And so unemployment is part of the story. There's a fall, a decline in status and income of workers, and these are some white workers who are having their status and income diminished. What else? What else? Yes? I'm sorry, again, can you say that again? Yes, factories. Very good. Right. So the implication is that the Chinese are in the factories too. That somehow and that is indeed the story that gets told, that somehow the Chinese are in cahoots with capital, with the railroads and with the big manufacturers, and they're doing that to keep wages down. And there's some, politically, the only allies that the Chinese have are in fact labor, are in fact big industry. The Charles Crocker types and the Leland Stanford types who are building railroads need Chinese labor. They're the only force of any power that's speaking in the interest of Chinese immigration at this time. But the conspiracy idea is, of course, completely overblown. Nonetheless, I think that's a good observation. I think there's also a steamship in the back here. It's hard to tell the difference, but I think one of those entities in the background behind is a steamship, implying that more Chinese are flooding into California. All right. Other thing, just a little bit more than minor significance to the boot building story too. I think Takaki talks about this. This is the quintessential industry that is undergoing change, technological change. This is where there used to be an occupation called a cordwainer. I think you might even see it in the data that I'm going to talk about in a minute. They did some important part of the shoemaking process. But we don't have them anymore. There's dozens of these kinds of occupations around this time that are fading because there's new kinds of machines. In the case of bootmaking, there are new sewing machines that are capable of sewing shoes together. And what this means is that where people used to require apprenticeship to attain these very specific skills, new machines are coming in that are doing the job with unskilled labor. And this is important because the Chinese afford a vast pool of unskilled labor, and they've been excluded from many labor organizations. So you need to be willing to take these kinds of jobs. And I think Takaki talks about an incident in North Adams, Massachusetts, where a shoe manufacturer contracts for a large number of Chinese to break a strike. I don't think that was a successful enough operation, as Takaki implies, but it was noticed. It was noticed. And so the Chinese are getting in the middle of this other dynamics happening in the economy. Anyway, I think we could talk even longer about this because there's just so many great details in this cartoon. But I think we've got most of its values. So let's turn now, with this in mind, let's turn to the data that we have for Lab 2. That's probably not exactly the place we should start. But in Lab 2, I think by now you know that what you have are 1880 census counts of people in California. And what I've done is divide them by occupation and location. The location are called census enumeration districts, and a census enumeration district is roughly analogous to a census tract today. It's a geographical unit that's convenient for collecting census data. I want us to think of them as neighborhoods that may be pushing the point a little bit. They were designed for the convenience of census collectors. They didn't send sociologists out there to determine who was talking to who, and so whether they truly are neighborhoods or not is a little bit of a tough call. But they are all contained unambiguously within counties, and counties are made up of these census enumeration districts. And so we can at least use them to say something about segregation. I make a point in the lab right up that in order to talk about segregation, you have to have nested geographical or occupational units. Right? You can't say that Berkeley is segregated if all you know are the ethnic proportions. If you know that, I think the example I use is if you knew that 14% of Berkeley were Estonian, you could not from that say that Berkeley was segregated. Right? Because the Estonians could be evenly divided throughout Berkeley. Right? It's not, segregation doesn't mean sparsity. If there are only a small number of Estonians in the country and they're randomly located, it's hard to call that, it's meaningless to call that segregation. Right? Segregation would be if all the Estonians lived in Rockridge, right? Or in West Berkeley, or in one neighborhood. And so that means you've got to have data on the neighborhoods in order to say that there's segregation. That's why the census enumeration districts are important. If we want to talk about geographical segregation or isolation, to use a somewhat more neutral word, you need to, if you want to talk about that within a county, for example, San Francisco County, you got to use these census enumeration districts in order to see if there is any. Right? You can't just look at the data on San Francisco as a whole, just as you couldn't look at the data on Berkeley as a whole to determine whether the Chinese in any were segregated. Now, the occupations can play the same role as the census enumeration districts. As in another set of files, there are occupational breakdowns. In other words, for each of 584 or so occupations, some of them very obscure today, you have the counts of people by sex and by birthplace. So within San Francisco County, you can talk about isolation of Irish-born females, if you want, in terms of geography using the census enumeration district, or in terms of occupation using these occupational categories. Okay. Now, your GSIs argued strongly against the inclusion of several pages of stuff about indices of segregation, and they didn't argue forcefully enough, so I kept it in. But you don't need to use that. Okay? There's a, if you look at it, I think it's pretty clear from the write-up that I don't need for you to use any of these fancy 19 indexes of segregation that have been used in the literature. I singled out one called the interaction index, that if you have to use one, I think you should use that one. But it is not necessary. I put it in because some people really like to reason this way. Some people like these kinds of indices. And the interaction index is, I think, intuitive enough to make clear. Many of the others are not. Most of the others we can't use anyway because our geographical measures are just not up to it. But I want you to be aware that segregation is something that social scientists have spent a half century trying to measure in various ways. We don't need to do it the way they do. I would rather see a good graph than a lot of indexes of this and that. But I'm open to the indexes if you want to use them. All right. We have a few more minutes, so let me talk a little about graphs. This is a graph of the proportions of white, black, and Asian in Alameda County, right, by census tract. So up along the y-axis here, these are census tract numbers. And although they're numbers, the numbers are meaningless. They could as well be letters. There is no sense that 6001-42290 has any particular relationship to 6001407100. Right? And there's actually a little bit of information encoded in these, but not very much. So the reason that I plotted it this way is that there's a lot of information in this plot, but because the y-axis is meaningless, and this meaninglessness, I don't mean they're meaningless, I mean census tracts are important. There's no natural relationship among them. And this is the same that you'll run into with the census enumeration districts. They're just like census tracts. And to a maybe lesser extent, but maybe not, the occupations. Right? So if you're graphing distributions of occupations or distributions of ethnicities within census enumeration districts, there's no logical order for that axis to be in. Right? And as a result, if you plot it this way, well, what can you conclude? You can kind of conclude that there's a lot of census tracts with blacks and whites and Asians in Alameda County, right? And that some of them, the dotted lines with the X's, are ones that are located in Berkeley. But it's hard to say much more, right? If instead you sort the census tracts by the proportion black, at least some kind of picture emerges. A good deal more information here, right? I mean, here we can see, obviously that as the proportion black rises, the proportion white and Asian tend to fall. But you can also see that there are some census tracts with more Asians, with dramatically more Asians than whites, many with more whites than Asians. But there's not a stunning pattern here of, I would say, segregation. And just looking at this, you may not be able to tell. But here, let's compare it to another place called St. Louis. Okay, same kind of plot. Now there are many fewer Asians in St. Louis, but comparing these two plots, right? Notice how the tail up here, where the highest proportions of blacks, the census tract, the highest proportion of blacks. Notice how that rises towards 1 versus this one. Notice how this one gets to 1 and stays there. And there are a considerable number of census tracts in St. Louis that are virtually 100% black, whereas there are very few in Alameda County. Right? And that's I would call that evidence that this is a little more segregated, right? A little more isolation here. You say? But I don't think. I should have plotted the random one for St. Louis too. I contend you wouldn't be able to see that if you just plotted if you plot them in random census tract order. So the point is that ordering this stuff is going to be an important technique for getting at this data. Right? Okay, there. Any questions about St. Louis? Any questions about St. Louis? Alameda County? Okay. Okay. Then that's all that I want to cover today. But there are a few minutes, so let me do two things. First, if you lost a lab partner due to death or migration, or dropping the class, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay. If you joined the class, Thursday morning last week, and you're looking for a lab partner, raise your hand too. All right. Okay. So look around and linger. It's I found over the years that some of the best students join this class right at the last possible moment. They'll be great assets to your lab group. Don't be shy. Okay. So if you're missing a lab partner or need one, find each other. Okay. Yes. For the test on Friday, you need a sharp pen or pencil. Okay, maybe 2. The test will be fairly evenly divided. There'll be about half the questions will be on lecture, half the questions on the reading. Some questions will really refer to both. But in terms of roughly, I'm trying to weight them both evenly. Yes? No, Takaki will not be on it, but all of the readings that have been required. So there's Daniel's, but there are also several small readings that are on the course calendar that you have done, maybe you already read twice. Those are also fair game. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you.